It's Tuesday, November 3rd, and this is now on HNN.
I'm just dropping off my ballot.
Right now at the polls, U.S. voters are marking an end to an election like no other.
You know, I've always voted in person.
Despite a record number of mail-in voters, many still plan to cast ballots in person.
We have more resources than any other local media outlet to bring you the most extensive coverage in the state.
President Trump will wait for election results from the White House. I'm Natalie Brand with what he's telling campaign staffers about his chances heading into tonight.
I think you're going to see some tremendous results.
I'm Michael George at the Biden campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware. The stage is being set up now. I'll show you what the former vice president is doing in the closing hours of the campaign.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Get ready. You're watching our special election edition of This Is Now. Good afternoon, Jonathan and Ashley coming to you from the HNN Digital Center. I want to begin with this live picture from Washington, D.C. There's a beautiful shot of the White House we're looking at right there. Beautiful autumn leaves in the background. It's 5 o'clock there now. East Coast polls we expect to close in just about 2 hours, so around 2 p.m. our time, we will start to see those exciting poll numbers come in. We got all the angles covered for you here at This Is Now today.
That's right. President Trump is promising his supporters will show up the polls today like a red wave. We begin with the latest from his campaign. Here's Natalie Brand from Washington.
Staff and volunteers cheered on the president as he made a rare appearance at his campaign headquarters in Virginia today.
I know you'll be here all night, and I think you're going to see some tremendous results.
The president said his 23 rallies in the last week have taken a toll on his voice, but have helped his chances heading into tonight.
You know, we had rallies, there was love at those rallies. I think we took off, so it's been really good.
His campaign expects a surge of Republican support at the polls today to give him an edge.
We're seeing lines of people, and they're wearing a lot of red material, including hats.
CBS News has confirmed the Trump campaign has a war room set up to monitor the results, and the president will be here at the White House with about 400 guests as the returns come in.
Winning is easy. Losing is never easy. Not for me, it's not.
President Trump has hinted at legal action and again criticized a Supreme Court ruling that allows Pennsylvania to count postmarked ballots received up to 3 days after the election.
A lot of shenanigans, a lot of bad things happen with ballots when you say, oh, let's devote days and days, and all of a sudden the ballot count changes.
The president says he has not yet written either an acceptance or concession speech. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Biden will spend the day in the swing state of Pennsylvania. That's where he was born and where his campaign started 18 months ago. Michael George is following the campaign.
Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden stopped by his childhood home in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Hey, everybody, how are you?
He thanked supporters in the battleground state for getting out the vote.
I basically came to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Joe!
Earlier, the former vice president visited the grave of his elder son, Beau, who had encouraged his dad to make another run for the White House.
So I hope that tomorrow is a new day.
The stage is set here at Biden campaign headquarters in Wilmington, where the former vice president is expected to address supporters tonight. But this will be a socially distanced event. The campaign anticipates between 200 and 300 cars to fill this parking lot.
We love you!
Dr. Jill Biden made a final push for votes in North Carolina and Florida.
Florida is a very important state. We're hoping to win it. We are not taking any vote for granted.
And running mate Kamala Harris is in the Midwest.
The choice we have right now is in our hands.
Decency, honor, respect.
The Biden campaign has outspent President Trump on the airwaves by more than $165 million.
The country is ready.
Today, his camp says they feel it's clear they're winning. Michael George, CBS News, Wilmington, Delaware.
There's been historic voter turnout in Hawaii's first all-mail-in election, but there are still some people who prefer to vote in person. Casey Land is at Kapolei Hale, one of 2 voter service centers on Oahu.
Good afternoon from Kapolei Hale, and of course it looks pretty quiet out here as elections officials moved the pretty big line that was out in front of the building earlier this morning inside. Take a look at just how many folks were lined up before the polls even opened. We showed that on Sunrise this morning. We really weren't expecting it to be that big, but some of those folks were here even before 5 a.m. when we showed up for the morning show. I talked to one gentleman who said he felt it was very important, especially this year, that he vote in person and not send his ballot in through the mail system.
I still don't trust them voting by mail. You know, I've always voted in person, so with all the new stuff that's going on right now, I'd rather make sure that my vote counts.
A lot of people say they feel the same way, and that's why they showed up in person here on Oahu at the 2 voter service centers. We also heard from election officials about what they are seeing so far and how in-person voting and the vote-by-mail system is going on this election day.
Not really. Hawaii's always had a high utilization of mail ballots, so this is not something new. This is something we've been doing for a while now. Ever since 2014, we've had more people voting earlier than on election day, so this is not a new process for us. So we don't anticipate any problems.
So even this afternoon, things are pretty busy at the voter service centers here on Oahu. Folks are able again to still register in person here at those service centers and then vote in person. Again, you can still drop your ballots in the ballot drop box by 7 p.m. We also talked to the Honolulu elections administrator, Rex Cadilla, who says that if you do plan on really pushing the limits and coming in later this evening, again, they will still allow you to vote in person if you line up by 7 p.m. But any later than that, your vote will not be counted. That's important information. A reminder again, you can still register at these voter service centers. So if you've been holding off or you felt like you don't need to vote this year, please get out, get registered, and get your vote in as soon as you can today. We'll have complete election coverage for you, of course, throughout the day later on Hawaii News Now. For now, I'm Casey Lund reporting in Kapolei for This Is Now.
Thanks, Casey. Let's turn it over now to Billy V, who's outside another voter service center at Honolulu Hale.
Thank you very much. Even before they opened the doors here at Honolulu Hale Voter Service Center, the lines were here. The people were waiting. Here we go. The lines are open. The doors are open. The lines are inside, but don't let this fool you, because once you go inside the doors, what happens if you're familiar with Honolulu Hale, you go all the way down the walkway to the stairs that go down in the back where all the pictures of the former mayors are. You go all the way down to the end where the snack bar is. You come inside back into the interior here in the middle, and from there it's like a maze, Disneyland, to get to go to whatever you need to do, whether you need to actually register. There's a separate line for that, but if you're voting, that once again you wind around like that. But it's been moving consistently and at a very good pace this morning. There are people there with clipboards ready and waiting to assist you if you need help. So things are moving well. As a matter of fact, I asked one of the officials here at this voter service center, I says, how are things going? He says, actually, well, but surprising because of the people that were here even before they were ready to open. We talked to some of the voters, and here's some of their feelings on voting today.
Well, I'm excited about what's happening right now because it's been 4 years of uncertainties, and it's important that not only myself, that all my family and friends are out voting this year, which we haven't for a while, because it's the vote of the people that makes the difference. And it's important.
I just dropped off my boyfriend's ballot, and I was encouraging him this whole time to, we need to get it in. It's very important this year. It's going to make a huge difference. It's very crucial. So he was very last minute to do it because, he had to go out on a flight. But I was like, okay, give it to me so I can turn it in.
As far as the election goes, whatever the outcome, we should just respect it. I mean, that's what the voting is all about, people's choice. Choice has been made, and I don't know, over the past few elections, there's just been temper tantrums, or, you know, it's like, that doesn't help. You know, what's that gonna do?
And when I asked one of the people in there, one of the officials for this voter service center, I said, give me one word to describe. They said, happy. I says, happy? Because you have a lot of people coming through, and says, happy because from the get-go, it's been busy and consistent as compared to the past. Notice that right along here, also on the outside, they have drop-off as well, where people are just driving through, handing off their ballot, person there to collect it, and we're noticing that people don't move forward until they see their ballot go in and that door closes. From Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Billy V for This Is Now.
Whoever wins the White House will have to work with Congress. The power could shift in both places, making it easier or more challenging to pass important legislation. Our Washington bureau is following the balance of power in the House and Senate.
Here's the current breakdown in the Senate. The Republicans have a 53 to 45 to 2 majority. The two independents caucus with the Democrats, meaning the Democrats need a net gain of at least 4 seats to retake power. If they can pull it off, it would be the first time in 6 years. According to the independent race tracker Cook Political Report, there are 2 Republican-held seats leaning Democratic, Cory Gardner in Colorado and Martha McSally in Arizona. There are also 7 Republican-held seats listed as toss-ups: Steve Daines in Montana, Joni Ernst in Iowa, Susan Collins in Maine, Tom Tillis in North Carolina, Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, and both Senate seats in Georgia. David Perdue is up after his 6-year term, and Kelly Loeffler is in a special election. She was appointed by the governor a year ago. How is it that these seats, especially in Georgia and South Carolina, are in the toss-up column? We spoke to Cook's Jessica Taylor.
These races are turning on President Trump. Republican incumbents have been inextricably linked to him. We have seen a hesitancy up until these past few weeks to criticize him, to distance themselves from him. And that's because a lot of these incumbents, they're truly between a rock and a hard place.
2 democratically held seats the Republicans are looking to flip. Doug Jones was the first Democrat to win a Senate seat in Alabama in 25 years, but he's in a tough fight against Republican challenger Tommy Tuberville. And in Michigan, Republicans are putting a lot of money into John James's campaign to try to unseat Democrat Gary Peters. I'm Ted Fioraliso. Now let's go to Washington Bureau Chief Jacqueline Policastro, who's following the House.
Ted, the Democrats won the House 2 years ago, and they're trying to keep control tonight. They currently have a 232 to 197 to 1 majority. Let's look at some of the competitive races. The Cook Political Report is listing 27 House seats as a toss-up. 17 are Republican-held, meaning Democrats could expand their majority. 1 seat they're trying to take back, Minnesota's 1st Congressional District. Democrat Dan Feehan is challenging Republican Jim Hagedorn for the seat Hagedorn turned red 2 years ago. It was one of just 3 GOP flips in 2018. Another seat Democrats are hoping to take is Virginia's 5th District. 3 different congressmen have held the seat the past 3 terms, and there will be a new one again. Republican Bob Good beat the incumbent in the primary. He is challenging Democrat Cameron Webb, who's touting his experience working in both the Obama and Trump administrations. Cook's David Wasserman tells us where he thinks Democrats can make gains.
Well, in 2018, in the midterms, Democrats flipped a lot of suburbs of really blue metro areas. This time around, we're seeing Democrats push into suburbs of smaller cities and more conservative traditionally metro areas.
There are some Democratic seats that could flip Republican, but the reality is tough for Republicans. They would need a net gain of 21 seats to take back power. There are 2 opportunities in Iowa. In the 1st District, freshman Democrat Abby Finkenauer is trying to hold on to the seat she flipped blue 2 years ago. She's being challenged by a former local news anchor, Republican Ashley Hinson. In the 2nd District, a 7-term Democratic congressman is retiring. Democrat Rita Hart is facing Republican candidate Marionette Miller Meeks, who already ran for the seat 3 times before. In the Washington News Bureau, I'm Jacqueline Policastro.
As we await the state's coronavirus numbers for today, Governor Ige says it's possible that the quarantine from Hawaii to Japan could be lifted.
They've agreed that they would be willing to consider Hawaii separate from the rest of the United States. But they just want to make sure that in the government-to-government relationships, that the United States doesn't get upset about the fact that they're treating U.S. citizens from Hawaii differently than they might treat other citizens from the rest of the country.
Right now, travelers from Japan are allowed to skip Hawaii's 14-day quarantine if they test negative 72 hours before their flight. But they still have to quarantine when they get back to Japan. Meantime, the state is also looking for more trusted testing partners for travelers coming from the mainland.
HPD says officers responded to about 70 calls about large gatherings on Oahu over the Halloween weekend. No arrests were made.
Halloween weekend, HPD was called to break up 2 large parties, both out in the country. Once the police showed up, they dispersed. But why were they together in the first place? They're going to spread the virus, and then we could face another move backwards instead of moving forwards into Tier 3 before Thanksgiving.
Now, the target date for Oahu to move to Tier 3 is November 19th, but that may be a challenge because the island needs to stay under 50 cases for 2 weeks. Right now, the 7-day average is 56. New today, U.S. cruise lines have canceled sailings through at least the end of the year. That's because of new safety guidelines related to the pandemic. U.S. cruise lines had been set to resume sailing as of December 1st. People around the globe are growing anxious about this election. That's because the winner will shape policies and relations with other countries around the world. Ian Lee has that side of the story.
The world is watching as Americans vote. Even people overseas feel they have a horse in this race, since presidents can change the course of history.
I love you, Trump! Israel!
President Trump enjoys a sky-high approval rating in Israel, with supporters hoping he gets 4 more years.
Trump is going to get reelected, and he is going to start his road to peace across the world.
Despite the president's unflattering description of African nations, hundreds are marching in Nigeria to support him. And in Russia, many fear a Joe Biden presidency. This resident of Moscow says Biden is too aggressive in his policies toward Russia. Support for the candidates really depends on the country and who they think will be best for their own national interest. In the UK, most believe Biden should be America's next president.
I think Biden will be the best for the UK economy to support us. I don't think Trump particularly cares about us all that much.
Well, I hope it's Biden because Trump's awful for the whole world, for America, for Brits, for everybody, really.
In France and Germany, President Trump also remains deeply unpopular. It's madness, this French woman says. Trump is completely crazy. Others, like this German man, don't care for either candidate. He says, I find it unacceptable that 2 men in their 70s represent the nation. It's time for a new beginning. Whoever wins, the result will impact not just the U.S., but the world. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
What an exciting day ahead. We've got you covered here at H&N. Whether you're watching NBC or CBS, H&N's there for you. We've got cut-ins planned throughout the entire evening. Let's turn to something else everyone's watching, the weather, of course. Here is our good friend, Guy Hoggy, with a look at how that's shaping up.
Aloha on this Tuesday, election day. We've got fair weather across the state. Pretty nice day expected. But by tomorrow, that cold front's going to drop in. It's going to increase the clouds and showers, mainly for the west end of the state. Look for more clouds and showers tomorrow for Kauai and Oahu. It's expected to be a pretty damp day. Now, don't be worried about those thunderstorms firing up to the south of Kauai. The movement suggests that they will miss us, and we won't see much of that rain. And we're not expecting a whole lot of rain today, and trade winds will pick up to about 10 to 15. So very similar conditions today that we had yesterday, except today you got to make sure to vote. High temperature running to about 87 degrees, and those trade winds still offering up some lower humidity levels at 10 to 15. Now, as far as the surface on the way down, it got pretty big yesterday. Should be about 8 to 12 on the decline today. For north and west shores, we'll see smaller conditions, but another big boost is due in sometime tomorrow. And South Shore small this morning, but look for another nice little pulse rolling into the South Shore by tonight. So again, today should be pretty nice. And then tomorrow, cloudy with scattered showers, should be pretty squishy. And then Thursday and Friday, we'll see variable winds hang on with a more scattered windward and Mocha showers. Drier conditions with stronger trade winds due in over the weekend. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Well, the internet's talking about the election, of course, but we're going to give you a break from that. Let's have some non-election stories, please. All right, guys. Walmart is announcing some layoffs of a different sort. Robots. They were testing these robots out in about 500 stores. They're going to let humans do the job instead. The robots were going around the stores checking inventory with a network of cameras. They're about 6 feet tall, have about 15 cameras. And they're going to, like I said, they were supposed to be like the R2-D2 for store clerks, but now they're just going to let the humans do the job. And I can see a big benefit for that, really.
That's really cool, though. It's like scanning all the products and doing inventory.
Yeah, they just need to change it into a robot that can do my dishes and laundry.
Right,
please.
and can the robot tell you where, the cinnamon or the spices are if you need to look for something? Probably not.
I always need that help, too.
Right. Apple, you guys, is replacing AirPods, faulty AirPods, for free. The company says some of its AirPod Pro devices may have sound issues. The issues include crackling or static sounds and the noise cancellation not working as expected. Apple says affected units were manufactured before October 2020. The replacement program covers the AirPod Pro for 2 years after they were sold.
Good to know.
And Walt Disney World is increasing dining reservation capacity at all table service restaurants. Florida's Phase 3 allows theme parks in Florida to return to normal operations with limited social distancing protocols.
All right, changes there.
And here at home, you guys, while we won't know the election results for all the races until a couple hours, there has been a winner declared in the race for Honolulu Zoo. My buddy Squirt, the zoo's distinguished reticulated giraffe, has been selected for the top job. And here's Zoo Director Linda Santos with more about the election.
We just thought it would be a fun opportunity, since it's an election year, to bring awareness to conservation issues that these animals face. We selected the candidates, longtime residents of the zoo, Rusty, who's an orangutan, and Squirt, our reticulated giraffe, who's the oldest of the herd out there. When we first posted it on our social media, we were surprised as to how many people commented and started immediately saying, I vote for Squirt or I vote for Rusty. And we thought it was so fun that they could get involved and read about the different candidates and what their election was about for them in conservation and education.
A lot of the other zoo residents kind of endorse their favorite candidates. Talk about all that, all the politics at the zoo.
So if they came from a similar habitat, obviously they would support their candidate, because their candidate was pushing needs like Rusty, Indonesia. So all the Indonesian animals or island species were in support of Rusty, to support more tree growth, lack of cutting down and destroying their forests or their natural habitat. And then Squirt, on the other hand, has a big continent mass. He comes from Africa, and we know that poaching and wildlife trafficking is a big issue. So he wanted to bring awareness on that.
And so Squirt is now the mayor of the Honolulu Zoo. Talk about why you think people chose Squirt.
Because Squirt's so charismatic. He has a very soft, docile demeanor and face. And the fact that we got in 2 younger giraffes this year brought a lot of attention to the species. So I think people in general gravitated towards Squirt.
I love Squirt. I met him myself.
Me too.
Yeah, he's a good winner. Rusty's cute too. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now. Again, so much election coverage ahead. Stay with HNN and your HNN digital platforms. We'll see you soon.
Aloha.